All right, here we go. This is Mr. Kaji, and I'm going to show you how to use Adobe Spark to create a graphic for your Instagram social media post about your risk taker. So you'll begin by going to Adobe Spark's website. It is spark.adobe.com, and then you will click sign in the top right corner. When you get to this landing page here, you can continue with Google, and you'll get a little bit of a speed bump just to make sure that it is you, and then you will be on the project homepage. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to have you choose Instagram post as your template. This is going to give you a canvas that is the size and shape that you need it to be. Now you need to have 4 elements as part of your social media graphic. You're going to have an image of your risk taker, your person. You'll need to have some sort of symbol that represents what they stood for or what they did. Some language on there that sort of just explains, the action or what they stood for, what they worked towards. And then finally, a quote that you can attribute to your risk taker. Okay, so here is our canvas, and you can go about designing a background in a number of different ways. First is you can choose one of these pre-made templates that are over here on the left side. Just keep in mind that you're looking at the design, not so much the text and the images. You'll be able to replace some of those elements with your own. So you're really just looking at the design. And if you choose it, then your canvas will become that. You can also choose a background from over here on the right side. What that will do is that will break up your canvas into different boxes and blocks. You're not going to be confined to those blocks. They're not walls. You can spill over them, but it'll give you kind of a look and feel of sort of a divided space. You can also then change the color template of the blocks. So there are some pre-made color templates in here, so you can choose one that kind of matches what you're looking for, or you can create your own color template for that. I am going to be choosing, however, a background from the backgrounds selection over here. And so you can search any of these, or if you have something in mind, you might want to type it in and see what comes up, but there's tons of different backgrounds there for you. So I like this Art Deco background here. And you'll see that the background itself does not match the size of the canvas. So I'm just going to drag it by its corner here. It's the wrong shape, but what you can do in Adobe Spark is you can just continue to drag beyond the edges of the canvas, and it will fill up the entire space for you. Now, I think that while I like this background, I think it may be a little bit busy for me to put text and things on top of it. So if you have a design background that you like and you're worried about that, then you can come over here and use this transparency slider. And what that will do, that'll fade out the background so that you still get the look that you're looking for, but then it won't dominate the text and images you put on top of it, because that's the most important thing. All right, so we have our background. Now we're going to put in our photo. So over here on the left side, you have photos. You can search for photos. I found that there aren't really a ton of photos that are in there. Maybe just my person, P.T. Barnum, wasn't as readily available as yours may be, so you certainly may look there, or you can upload a photo. So what I would recommend you doing would be to go out and do a Google image search. Would be one way to go for your person. And you want to be sure that the photos that are here are photos that you would really be allowed to use. So one of the ways we do that is by going over in Google Images to the tools bar and looking for this usage rights filter, and then turning it on for Creative Commons licenses. So you'll be able to find then just the ones that you have built-in permission to use. Another great resource for this, and it's a really easy one because everyone will be able to do this, is if you head on over to Wikipedia. All of the images that are built into Wikipedia have permission built in for you to use. They are either in what's called the public domain, because there is no copyright on them because they're so old, or the owners and creators have waived the rights, their copyright privileges, because they uploaded it. So that's part of the deal when they upload something to Wikipedia. So here's a photo of P.T. Barnum. It's in the public domain, which means I'm able to use it. So I am now going to download this file. and we're going to put it into my downloads. It's going to go into your downloads as well. So back to my canvas, I will upload a photo and I will choose it. And now I have my photo of P.T. Barnum. Okay, so there it is. It's not super exciting. So one of the nice things that you can do in here is that you can change the shape of your photo. So you might want to choose this crop and shape feature over here. So what that would allow me to do is then come on down here and choose a shape that I can change my photo into. So I like this oval shape. It's got kind of an old-timey vignette feel to it. So now I've got my photo and it sort of looks like a portrait. So that part is done. So now I've got my photo. Now I need to find a symbol. So one of the things that I looked at was these icons over here on the left. And I just did some searches for some things that I know that P.T. Barnum is known for, right? So I know he's known for his circus and his stages and his sideshows. So I just did a quick search for circus, and I'm just going to look through and see what's there and decide that I like this one here. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here. That'll be my symbol. Now you can change the size of the image. You can also change the color. So now we've got a color palette here, and it, it's not a terrible idea to stick with the color palette because they've already decided that these are kind of complementary colors that go together, right? So if you change it and you use some of the other colors, these colors are still gonna kind of match there. So I want to go something a little more washed out. I think that the yellow might be too washed out on the background, so so the orange one is good here. So now I've got my symbol of P.T. Barnum at the circus. So now you're going to add your text to your image that will be your description of what the person accomplished or what they stood for, you know, whatever it is that they did. So you can do a couple of things. Come over here to this text button here on the side. You can add text here, and that will give you a text box. We'll show you that in a second because that's what I'm going to use. Or you can use these pre-made text boxes here, and I'm going to use that for my quote. So you get to see that in a second. So here I'm going to add this text. I have an idea that I got from Miss Sampson's example of putting the words about what they stood for in that circle with the symbol, and I thought that was neat because it kind of separated it out from the quote part, and it looked really different. So I am going to be looking here to curve the text. So I will click on this circle right here, and I'll click on the semicircle. And then up here where it says double click to edit, this is where you would type in your text. So I'm going to do circus, sideshow, Tom Thumb. And then I think I'm going to change the font as well to something a little bit bolder than what was there. And I'm going to drag this up here, and we'll make that a little bit bigger. So what I'm going for is kind of like a circle feel here. So now maybe my circus tent will be a little bit smaller there. Okay, so I like this. Now I want to reuse it. So what I may do is instead of putting in another text box, I'll just click on my words here for my bottom half of the circle, and I'll come up here to the plus and just do duplicate. So now I'll just kind of slide this down so I can see it. And we're going to change the shape. Instead of semicircle on top, it's going to be semicircle underneath. And I will change my text over here. So let's say Greatest Showman and his new American Museum. All right, so there's my text here, and I'm going to kind of slide this up so we get a little bit of a circle look around that. So you can drag it with your mouse. You can also nudge, what's called nudge it. If you hold down the shift key and use the arrows on your keyboard, you can kind of bump it to the side. So if you're having trouble controlling it with your mouse or with the touchpad, use the keypads, or actually go ahead and get yourself a mouse to plug into your Chromebook so that you can control it a little bit better. All right, so now I've got this, and I'm gonna line up my. Now, what you're gonna see here is I'm trying to move my circus tent and ringmaster here, and I can't because these letters are on top of it. So what I have here are these layers, and so these layers are going to show you how everything is stacked on top of each other. So what I really need to do is I want to bring this layer here up to the top. So I'm going to click it, and we're going to drag it all the way up to the top. So now it is on top, and then I can move it. So keep in mind, so when you're laying things down on there, if things are laying on top of each other, you can drag the order in which they appear. So think of them as just like, you had all them cut out and you were stacking them on the table, and then you'd have to kind of layer them. So that will be a way you can get around that. So now I've got my photo, I've got my symbol, I have the text that I need. Now I'm just looking for a quote. Now, you may have found a quote in some of your research. You can also go out and find a quote online about your person. Simple Google search. So P.T. Barnum quotes. My experience with quotes is that sometimes quotes get attributed to the wrong person, or sometimes they're not exactly the quote the way it was said. So when I'm looking for quotes, I'm always looking to find it at least twice attributed to that person with the same exact wording, because sometimes people don't remember it exactly when they post it. There are also some authoritative sources for quotes. So Goodreads is a really good source for that. You can go find them. Others out there, there's a source called Bartlett's that you can find them that is also an authoritative source. But if you're looking for it in a couple of things, like if you find like brainy quotes, try and find it somewhere else. Like, so if you find it in brainy quotes and Goodreads together, and they're both attributed to your person and use the same exact words, then it's the right quote. Okay. So I like this quote right here. No one ever made a difference by being like everyone else. So I'm going to highlight this text, and I'm going to bring it back over to my canvas. Now for here, I'm going to use one of the pre-made texts for this. And I like this, I kind of like this feel down here that has the script with the arrows. Now, obviously I can't see this at all, right? So I'm going to have to to play with this to kind of get a feel for how that works. So I'm going to click on that and let me get a different color here. Okay, now I can see it. And then there is this arrow that goes along with it. Let me make sure I can see that too. All right, so double click on your text box, delete their text, paste my own. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe this arrow thing doesn't work really well. So I'm going to click on it so I get just the arrow, and I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard, and that's going to go away. So now I've got this text that I want to play with. And what I'm discovering is that I don't really feel like it's super easy to see. So I'm going to drag it by the corner, make it bigger. And it still feels a little thin to me. So I'm going to just kind of see what I can do for it. I'm going to come back to my background here, and we're going to take the transparency down a little bit more, and notice how the text begins to stand out when you do that. So that is a little bit better. Maybe I will need to change the font to something different. So I'll come down here and see if there's something that I would like to use. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. The font itself is a bit thicker. So no one ever made a difference by being like everyone else, attributed to P.T. Barnum. So I'm just going to drop this down a little bit so that it is not in the same space as the photo. And I now have my social media post graphic. So I've got my person, my symbol, my text describing what they stood for and what they accomplished, and the quote attributed to them. And just from a regular design perspective, you certainly don't need to use any of the elements that you saw here, but this is just a sample. You have the full access to all of the tools. It is a suggestion that you use not necessarily this circle for your text, but use something that is different in look and feel from what your quote is, so that you just don't overwhelm the graphic with text. So try and look at least two different ways to include your text, one for the quote, and then another one for how you describe what they did. So what the last thing you'll need to do is go ahead and up to the top and change the name of your project. Give it something meaningful as a name, P.T. Barnum Instagram post. So that is now the title, and you are able now to download. So you're going to come over to download. you will start this, choose a PNG, that is an image file. So if you just start that download there, go ahead and pick the solid color download for this one since we've used a background. And this is going to go into my downloads here. So now I have an image that I can then go back over to Google Classroom, and when it is time to turn it in, I can then just attach that image file to the to the assignment when I turn it in, and that would be my graphic that goes along with it. Play around in Adobe Spark. It is a great tool. It's, if you're a creative person, if you've got a designer's brain, you're gonna really like a lot of the stuff in there, and you can make it as advanced and creative as you possibly can. But it also can be really simple. So have fun with it, and we can't wait to see what you come up with.